Good day and welcome to Publishing and Implementation Guide website using the HL7 IG Publisher. My name is Elliot Silver. This session was originally presented at FHIR North on October 23rd, 2024, and moderated by Joni Harper of the Canadian Institute for Health Information. I'm president and principal consultant with Argentex Informatics, a healthcare interoperability consultancy, and I'm also the lead FHIR software developer with ResMed Corp, a medical devices company. I'm currently co-chair with HL7 International's Devices Work Group and an active member of the HL7 Canada community. I've held leadership roles with HL7 Canada, HL7 International, DICOM, and IHE standards groups. I've worked and presented in Canada, the US, and internationally. And I previously spoke at FHIR North about FHIR's device-related resources. This is the technical track. So I'm going to assume that everyone here is familiar with the idea of authoring a FHIR implementation guide and generally familiar with using the HL7 implementation guide or IG publisher tool. Authoring implementation guides, IGs, has previously been discussed here at FHIR North and is a topic again this year. If you're unfamiliar with IG authoring or with the HL7 IG publisher, this may not be the session for you. To get the most out of it, I suggest you go familiarize yourself with the IG publisher and IG authoring using any of the excellent online resources, and then come back and watch the recording of this session. The basic problem that we're going to look at is that most demonstrations of and material about the IG publisher focus on the authoring of the implementation guide. They take you through the process of profiling resources, creating examples, value sets, code systems, and so on, and show you how to write the supporting narrative. Then they show you how to build your implementation guide to an output directory on your local machine. And that's the point that these demonstrations or tutorials or documentation typically end. However, if you want others to find and use your content, you're going to need to get it out of that local directory and make it available, probably on the web. This is the part that isn't widely covered or documented, using the HL7 IG publisher to publish. So the information that there is about publishing with the IG publisher is spread across multiple HL7 websites, Confluence pages, and some of which are only kind of mostly up to date. I've hunted these down, synthesized and distilled the content, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. Now, for some IG authors, the authoring is all they need to know. For example, most of HL7 International's authors are ignorant of the publication process because the actual publication is taken care of by a couple of people within HL7 headquarters. But if you're not part of an organization that handles the publishing for you, going from an authored IG publication to a website is going to be a problem for you to solve. As I said, we're going to walk through the process of publishing an implementation guide to a website. And to make this completely meta, we're going to do it with an implementation guide about publishing implementation guides. Now, conveniently, that means that when we're done, these instructions and additional details will be available to you on the web. We're going to go through three main steps. First, setting up your publication environment, then preparing your guide for publication, and finally, running the IG publisher in publication mode. To see all that, we've created an implementation guide and I've put it up on GitHub at the address below. If you want to scan that QR code, it'll take you right there. I've already cloned a copy of that repo on my local machine, so let's take a look at it. Okay, so this is a sushi project. We can see you've got your sushi config.yaml file. That's used to generate the implementation guide resource in my project. It's got the default sushi patient profiles in it, and it's got several pages of narrative markdown. Shortly before we started today, I ran the implementation guide publisher, and let's take a look at the output right here. You can see this is from my local machine, and it says right on it, bright letters, local development build. Okay. As I said, this is typically the endpoint of an IG publisher tutorial. I've also set up the FHIR IG auto build process on my repository. Whenever I update the repository, the auto build process will build the guide and copy the contents of the output directory to build.phir.org. Let's go there and take a look. So build.phir.org, this is actually where the FHIR standard, the latest continuous integration builds of the standard are hosted. Anytime a change is made to the standard, as HL7 is developing it, you can see it here. Okay. But if we go /IG, okay, we can get to my implementation guide. So as I said, whenever I make a change to my repository, it gets built, copied up to here. This is great. This is a way for people to see, and this is how some people publish their implementation guides. We're going to see, though, that there's some problems with that. And the first of which is there's this big yellow box at the top of the page that's yelling at your readers, this guide is not an authorized publication. It's a CI build. It's based on the current content and changes regularly. This is not the message you want to be giving to people who are adopting or you want to adopt your implementation guide. You've got developers, they aren't going to want to be looking at something that's changing underneath them, right? So that's a bit of a problem. You could impose a little more control, say put each branch of or each release of your guide on a different branch in your repository, and it'll end up on a separate directory here. But there's no real easy way for the reader to know about those other versions. You'd have to give directions to them somewhere. And actually, we've got here this directory of published versions. What happens if we go and look at that? Page not found. So even if we did have those multiple versions, the tooling isn't able to help us with it. Now, another bit of a concern is from time to time, HL7 has gone and purged branches other than main from the implementation guides that they host on build.phir.org. They've reclaimed that space so that they don't have to pay, they don't have to run out of disk space. So they'll clean out those other branches. There's been, to my knowledge, one occasion when they actually cleaned out the main or master branch as well. So in terms of this being a long-term stable place to publish your to publish your implementation guides, probably not a great idea. Okay. Now, the final thing I want to mention is the idea of canonical redirects. Let's go take a look. Here's a profile. At the top of every profile or value set or code system page, there's a URL. This is the URL that identifies that resource. It's nice to do it. It's not a requirement, but it is a nicety if when your readers go to that location, they can get a page that's going to give information about that profile. Makes it really nice. You're looking at a resource, you see only that URL in it. You can go there, you can find out what it's talking about. What happens if we follow this? Nope, nothing there. Okay. Beyond just not having HTML there, the other thing that a canonical redirect should be doing is if you ask for it in JSON, if you ask for it in XML, it should give you the JSON or XML representation of the resource back. Obviously, we're not seeing it with the HTML. We're also not going to see it with the other representations. So I don't want to say that the IG auto build, the continuous integration build site, is not good. It's got its place. It's great if you want to share your content with the other people you're developing it with. You want to let people see previews, see the work in development. It's great for that sort of use, but it's not good for a permanent publication. Okay. Speaking of sharing, if you want to go to the CI build.fhir.org/ig/Elliot/how to publish, you can follow along with what we're going to be talking about. The next option that some people use for publication is just taking the contents of their local build and uploading it to a website. Certainly something that you can do. I've done that here with a variation of my implementation guide. Instead of how to publish it, we're calling it how not to publish it. There's some issues again. It says local development build. Makes sense. I copied it from my local directory, from my local build directory up onto this website. Okay. If we go take a look at an artifact, even though the canonical URL for this resource is on the same website as this is being hosted, to put in the canonical URL, let's see what happens. No, it's not going to do that redirect. It's not going to redirect to the HTML. It's not going to redirect to the JSON or XML. So this is a better option than publishing to the CI build in terms of long term. No one's going to come along and delete your web server on you, hopefully. You can manage multiple branches by simply putting them in different directories. It's your content under your control. So in a certain sense, this is a better option, but it's still not great. We've seen two examples of how not to publish. Let's take a look at the correct way of doing this with the IG publisher. I'm going to warn you, we're going to go a little fast, but everything here is in the guide. And after the session's over, you can go back, take your time, understand everything. If you're trying to follow along, we're going to work through the setup page. And to start with, we're going to need a couple of HL7 templates and such. So let's go grab those. The first one that we're going to grab is the FHIR IG history template repository. This is the content of those directory of published versions that we keep, well, not seeing. Okay, so we're going to need to get a copy of that. We're going to get a copy of the FHIR web templates repo. This is templates to stylize that publication history. So you can go in, modify these, make it look like your website, your company, your implementation guide, whatever. Okay. The next one we're going to need is the IG registry repository. This repository contains lists of all of the implementation guides, all of the sites that the HL7 tooling, the FHIR tooling knows about. And so what we're going to want to do is, as part of our publication, we're going to want to register our implementation guide in these lists so that the tooling can find our products. Okay. Now, I don't have write permission to this registry. So what I've done is I've gone and cloned it. And what we're going to do is we're going to make changes to my clone. When we push the changes into it, we can then do a pull request to the HL7 one and get the changes into it that way. Okay, so why don't we grab all of these now? Okay. The first one we're going to grab here is the history. We're going to grab the templates. We're going to grab my copy, my clone of the IG registry repository. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to need is we need a staging directory to put all of our files in as we're preparing to upload them. So I've got this publication directory here. We'll use that. I've also got, okay, there's the 3 repositories we've just cloned. There's also my project, how to publish, that we looked at earlier. And here's a recent copy of the IG Publisher jar file. Okay, basically an empty directory. First thing we're going to do we need 2 directories in here, one of which is for our copy of those templates that we've just copied, and the other one is the actual base of our website that we're going to upload to. Okay, we'll copy the files from the web templates repository into our project. And at this point, you can actually get rid of the web templates repository. We aren't going to need it again. Okay. Do this, make it a little easier. Okay. So we've got our publication directory. Within it, we've got those templates that I just copied over, and we've got an empty web root subdirectory. The templates, the header template, that's where you'd go, you'd put in things like your fave icon and styling. The preamble goes up at the top of the page. It's the page header. You put in your logos, you put in your company name, your all of those sorts of things. Maybe it's you've got a project logo, whatever. You also want to stylize the color to match either your implementation guide or your company or your organization policy, whatever. Okay. The postamble is the footer. Think about whether you want to update that for a custom copyright and so on. These are all used only on the history page. The implementation guide itself uses an IG template, and that's specified elsewhere. Okay. Search form template, that's the template applied to the page where you go when you click on a little magnifying glass icon in your implementation guide, if you've got that enabled. Okay. That's all good. If we were really doing this, I'd spend some time customizing all of these. We're going to skip over that for now. Okay. The first thing we need to do is create a publish setup file. And that goes in the web root. And this file gives the publisher the information it needs about how your website is laid out. It's got the base URL for your website. It's got what kind of web server you're using. There's 3 or 4 web servers that the IG publisher supports, and it needs to know that in order to generate those redirects correctly. Where you can find certain content, the search content, the index content, the package feed and publication feed. These are RSS feeds that your project uses or your site uses to say, here's the list of publications on my site. Here's the list of IG packages on my site. And finally, you've got the layout rules. And what this says, you can have multiple rules if you'd like, but what this one says is for an IG npm package of ca.argentexinfo.anything, that's going to use a canonical of argentexinfo.com/ig/the third component. And so that would be whatever that anything happens to be. In our case, it's going to be how to pub. The destination is also is the location underneath the web root directory of where to put our implementation guide. Again, it's based on the third component of the npm package name. Great. Okay. I mentioned those RSS feeds. So here's the first one. Publication feed.xml. It's got some basic information about our site, including where this file is going to live. And then we've got an empty item here. That empty item is going to get replaced and filled in when we do our actual publication. It's going to list all of the publications, all of the implementation guides that are available on this website. Make a copy of that. The package feed is a very similar RSS feed file. This one says where we're going to find all of the npm packages. Let's just go and we're going to update the information in here. Packages, FHIR implementation guide. Packages, package feed. Okay. Got the publish set up. We've got the publication feed. We've got the package feed. What's next to do? We're going to use the IG publisher actually to generate the next file. We'll do it like this. You run the publisher with the generate package registry option and tell it to put the output, the output and the input is in the web root directory. So we'll run it. It scanned, found 0 packages, and it created the package registry.json file. Let's look at that. Well, that's a whole lot of effort for not much right now. It's an empty file, basically. However, if we run this on an existing web server or on the directory from an existing web server, it would go put together the full list. So that's basically our setup there. The one other thing I want to look at, let's open up the IG registry repository. And in here, there is a package feeds JSON file. And if we scroll down right to middle, okay. So this is the list of all of the websites that the tooling knows about. We're going to add ours to the list, just like that. Name, the URL of where you can find the package feed on that website, and then an email address to contact in case there's a problem. And we've just gone and replaced the @ sign with a pipe, the period with an underscore. Okay. So that's our setup, basically. We're all ready now. Take a look at the implementation guide itself, see what we need to do to prep it. Before we do that, let's just confirm here. So we've made copies of those repositories. We've created the publication directory and subdirectories. We've added the templates to it. Theoretically, we would have customized them. We've defined the layout for our website, specified the feed files, updated package registry, or rather generated the package registry, and updated the registry info file. All good. Okay. If you're following along, we're now on the publication page. And what we're going to do is look at our implementation guide. We're going to confirm or update a few of the settings in the implementation guide resource. We're going to create the publication request file, and then we're going to build it. Okay. So let's see what we've got. Here's our sushi config. What you want to do, just go through it, or your implementation guide resource if you're editing it directly. Go through it, make sure your canonical is what you've set up for. Make sure your package ID is what you've set up for. Just review this file, make sure it's generating, it's got all the right information in it. You don't want to have to change things after you've published. We're publishing this. This is no longer going to be a draft. We'll say this is an active publication. It's no longer version 100 CI. It is going to be version 100. And the label on it is not going to be CI build anymore. It's going to be, we'll do release. Okay. Continue checking through here. Dependencies. So before you publish, you want to make sure you're actually using specific dependency numbers. You don't want current or dev or latest in your config file because you want to be able to get back to where you were. All right. This project doesn't have any dependencies. Well, none in here. We do want to check over in your ig.ini. We can see it's using the FHIR-based template, current version. We're going to go, so if you're using the HL7 templates, how do we know what the current version of those are? Easy. We'll go over to fhir.org/templates. This is the list of standard HL7 templates. We're using FHIR base template version 081. We'll come back here and we'll change this to 081. Okay. All that looks good. The next thing we need to do is create a publication request. Again, you want to check that your package ID matches what you've specified elsewhere, that your version matches what you've specified elsewhere. Now, we've updated the version in the sushi config, so we need to make sure that this actually is the same. Okay. The path is where this is going to be published on the website. Version 100 is going to go into directory how to pub 100. Okay. We're marking this as a milestone release. So actually, not only does it go to this directory, it also goes to just the how to pub directory. Okay, because that's where the current release of the IG is located. We're going to end up with 2 copies of this implementation guide, one in the how to pub directory and the one in the 100 directory. Different modes allow you to update one of those or the other or both. We've got the release sequence here. If you want to put a label on your releases, you can. Maybe you've got, you do a draft, maybe another draft, an STU, a second STU, it goes out for ballot. Each of those is a different release. And then you've got your 100. Maybe we end up publishing a 1.1 release. By using this release label, we're going to group all of those together. And then after that, maybe we move on to release 2, right? We've got a little bit of a description of it. This is the first time that this implementation guide has been published. So we're going to indicate that. And because of that, we need to add a few extra pieces of information. The title of the implementation guide, where you can find the CI build. Remember, way back at the beginning, this was the first thing we looked at, the auto build location, and then a couple of extra attributes that are used in the registry files. Let's save this. Application request.json in the how to publish directory. Great. Yeah. Okay. And let's rebuild this now. Usually, if we were being careful and doing a proper publication here, we'd want to go clean out your input cache output directory template, your fish generated directory, go clean out your FHIR cache. Make sure that you know exactly the state that you're starting from so that if you do need to get back here for any reason, you can. One of the things I've mentioned several times throughout this are these registries. Let's take a look at them now. There's actually 2 registries. There's this one, which is run by Simplifier. It's at registry.phir.org. And this has all of the packages for all of the implementation guides, whether they're built with HL7 IG Publisher or whether they're built with Simplifier. This is the full list. Okay. The other registry is this one, phir.org/guides/registry. This one is the list of the implementation guides, not the packages, and it's primarily got the ones generated using the publisher. You can see that that category and the descriptions that we were set in our publication request, that's where these are going to show up. Okay, let's go back and see how our build is going. All right, it's chugging along. So for our implementation guide, we went through, we confirmed or updated our settings, we created the publication request, and right now we're doing the build. All's looking good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the staging project, run publisher in Go Publish mode, and then we're going to upload our implementation guide. We're almost there. Okay. If you're following along, we're still on the publication page. All right. We got down to the end there. No errors, no warnings, no broken links. Everything looks good. We come back to the project. Back to the project. Refresh it, and you can see that it's version 1.0.0 release. It no longer has the CI there. It no longer has the CI build label on it. If we go to the QA for that project, we can see that a slightly unfamiliar content, or content that's probably unfamiliar, is the publication request. Now that we've created that file, we've got that content here. All of this looks like what we set up. That's great. It says this IG has never been published, which is true. We know that. And then it says because it's never been published, our version should start with 0, or it should end with a dash ballot or something like that. That's HL7's internal policy. It's not something that's required of your implementation guide. I know that we're ready to publish version 1.0.0, so we can ignore that. No errors, no warnings, nothing here. All looks good. So yeah, we're ready to go on to the next step. We're going to go back to the publication project, and we're going to run the publisher. So we run the publisher with the Go Publish option. We're going to say use my implementation guide project in the How to Publish directory as the source for this publication. We want to put the output in the webroot directory. The history uses the IG history repo to generate it. We're going to update the registry and FHIR IG registry list. Here's the directory you can use for temp files, and here's the styling to apply to that publication history page. Okay, and we'll kick that off. And you see it says run number 1. We're going to, as I mentioned, we're going to build it twice. Once for the how to pub directory, and then we're going to build it again for the how to pub /100 directory. So this will take some time. One of the questions that comes up a lot when you're doing implementation guide development is, should I be using the IG publisher or should I be using Simplifier? Some of it is related to what we're talking about today, but there's a lot of decision making that isn't related to this. So obviously, first thing that comes up is one is a commercial project and one is open source backed by HL7. There you've got cost versus free, but you've also got support, you've got stability, all of those other concerns. Okay, and then you start getting into things like which tool has better error checking. Are you planning on authoring your profiles using FHIR Forge profile editor or using Sushi, HL7 Sushi? Now, both of those tools can work with both Simplifier and the IG Publisher, but how they do it is a little bit different. So do you understand that? How are you planning on managing your versioning and your releases? Are you using GitHub What are your collaborative development needs? All of these things need to be considered. What about control over look and feel? Is it more important that your implementation guide has styling that's similar to the HL7 implementation guide styling, that whole look? Or do you want something that's more customizable that you can make match, say, your organizational standards? And actually, speaking of organizational standards, which of these tools has better support for accessibility, and is that important? Or language, multi-language support, is that important to you? So there's all kinds of considerations about when choosing between the IG publisher and simplifier. Now, for our purposes today, the most important is that a simplifier license comes along with a website to publish your implementation guide to. Whereas with IG Publisher, it's bring your own website. You've got to have a place to host it. One's not necessarily better. Bring your own website. You've got control over everything that happens on that server. It's yours. You don't have to worry about anything. On the other hand, being given a place to upload your implementation guide with Simplifier is very attractive. I'll note that with Simplifier, you can put it on your own website as well. You can put your implementation guide on your own website. So really, it's a pretty complex decision. All right. Let's go back, see how we're doing here. Hey, we are done. So it says success here. Excellent. Again, we're going to take some shortcuts here. And what I'm going to do next is connect to my web server. Application. There we go. I'm going to take all of these. There we go. Okay. Okay. Let's get that going. And while that's going, let's take a look at what it is we actually built. So we've got the package feed, publication feed, package registry, publish setup, the new file publish counter. That's just a check to make sure things are approximately in sync. Publish setup hasn't changed at all. That's an input file. Your publication feed, we see that it now has an entry for this publication, and it's got, here's the homepage of your IG publication. Similarly, you've got your package feed with an item in it, and here's where you can find the NPM package that goes along with this IG. The package registry, that was a file that we spent a lot of effort to generate an empty file. Well, it's no longer empty. It's got some information about our publications in it. Okay. If we look in the how to pub directory, we can see it's got all of the files that are generated for our project. It's also got a 100 subdirectory. And we can look at that, and it's got all of the IG project files as well. So we've got the two copies, almost identical, except for some of the URLs inside the files. The other thing you can see here is we've also got the publication history directory. And we'll take a look at that in a second. The other place we want to look here is we'll come over to the IG registry. The package feeds is a file we previously edited. Now let's take a look at FHIR IG list. And if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we can see that there's now an entry in there for our implementation guide. It says, here's where we can find the history. Here's the CI build for it. Here's the canonical for it. All the information we've published, version 1.0.0, all looks, well, not quite good. Okay, there's a couple of things missing here that we should just fill in. So let's populate those. Again, these are things that go into that registry, the HL7 registry, so that you can filter and sort your projects. Okay, great. At this point, I would probably go commit these changes, put them into, push them up to my repo, do a pull request back to the HL7 repo, and get this incorporated into the HL7 tooling so that they know about this implementation guide. I'd come back here, probably check this in so that we've got exactly what it was that we built so that we can get back here at any point. We're going to keep reusing this directory, this project, for all of the publications to our website. So we want it, it's going to keep building up. You're going to have more and more files in there. We want to make sure we can get back to a known state if we have to. And then the last thing we're going to want to do is we're going to check in all of the files for our implementation guide itself, the updated sushi, the updated IG.ini, and the publication request. Check those in as published again, so we have a known state. You probably want to tag that as the 1.0.0 publication. And then what you're going to do is go through, put this back to current, undo the changes here, CI, this is CI build, this goes back to draft, and actually this is no longer, we're now prepping for, let's say we're now prepping for our 1.1 release. So get these all ready, and again, check those in, and so that we can, and one more, update our publication request and remove all of this first time stuff, because now that we've done a publication, it's no longer first time. Okay. Now we're all ready to go start the next round of updates to our implementation guide, because we know there's going to be more updates to the implementation guide that is going to be necessary. All right, let's see where we are here. Everything looks to have been uploaded. Let's go. /IG/ how to publish. And what do we have? Great, we've now got the publication on our website. And it says, this is release 1.0.0. This is release 1.0.0 up here as well. This is the current published version. Great. For a full list of available versions, see the directory. Okay, well, let's see if we've got a directory finally. Look at that. Okay, we've got 3 entries in here. One is what we were just looking at. This is the current release. This one is the CI build. So if we were to click on here, that takes us to build.fhir.org/IG. right? And then this is the permanent home for the 100 release. If you click on that, you can see it says it's 100. It's the current version, which we knew from before, but it's in its permanent home, 100. So that all looks good. It's done exactly what we were expecting. Let's go back here for a second, check out the artifacts. We'll go to my patient. Okay. And if we copy that URL, we paste it in here. And if we go to the site or go to that URL, there we go. It took us back to the same page, but it resolved. Actually, let's try a different way here. Okay, we're going to retrieve that same page from the command line, and we're going to ask for it in HTML form. Okay, and that looks like HTML. Excellent. If we change this, FHIR JSON format, and we try and retrieve from the canonical URL again, not from the HTML page, but from the canonical URL, we should get this back in JSON format. That looks like a FHIR profile. Great. So it looks like everything's working here. Let's see where we are. We've gone through, we've run publisher, all that's taken care of. We talked about updating the FHIR IG list and committing those changes. We've talked about committing the changes to your IG project and to your publication directory and how to prep for the next release. So I think that's everything. Thank you very much for your attention. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want to see the implementation guide as we've published it, you can go to our gentixinfo.com/ig/howtopub. If you want to go to my GitHub or to the CI build, those are listed there as well. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you learned something.